Ambrosino. I'm watershed scientist at the Mystic River Watershed Association, and we're really delighted and very gratified that so many people have come out to hear the news of the Mystic River Water Quality Report Card. Just a brief word about our organization. We're a nonprofit organization devoted to environmental improvements at a regional scale. We do work in water quality, as you'll see, climate resilience, greenways, environmental education, and more, all in the most densely populated and most urbanized watershed in the state. If you'd like to learn more, get involved as a volunteer or as a member, seek out our website and find out more. I am the manager of our water quality monitoring programs, and we're extremely proud of our capacity as a nonprofit organization in the environmental space to make a contribution to public knowledge about environmental conditions. Our water quality programs are science-based, keeping with the traditions and literal demands of the Clean Water Act, and done in collaboration with the great environmental scientists at EPA and DEP. We're also community-based science organization. I had a colleague briefly from France who worked in our office. And when I told her that ordinary members of our communities get up every month at 6 in the morning in all weather, December, June, it doesn't matter, to go and collect water from rivers and streams in the city and around throughout the watershed, she laughed out loud. She said, this would never happen in France. That it would either be a government job to do that, or more likely, because all governments are constrained in their resources, it wouldn't get done. And I think it's an interesting and exciting thing about American democracy, about American civil society, that ordinary people can come together and contribute directly to the protection of shared resources, hopefully complementing and certainly working in collaboration with state, federal, and local government. We can represent the voices of people who live closest to the rivers and lakes and streams on the one hand, and on the other hand, we can offer regulatory agencies a conduit to sharing information with a wide audience. So we're delighted to be able to share the stage here with many people with whom we collaborate, including the following list of people: EPA EPA Regional Administrator Dennis Deziel will give some remarks, DEP Commissioner Martin Suuberg, the Town Manager Tom Ambrosino of the City of Chelsea, Mayor Carlo DeMaria of City of Everett, Patricia Jehlen of our organization, Senator Pat Jehlen from the State Senate will be on a panel at the end, and also joined by Mr. Fred Laskey from the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. We're excited to be able to contribute here. We don't make the laws or enforce the laws or do the work of infrastructure repair that comes with that is necessary to clean up the water. We're delighted that people who do all those things, make laws, enforce laws, and make cities work, are here to join in this report card session. I also note that Representative Sean Garbely is here, and I recognize him, and thank you for attending. What we measure is bacteria. We're measuring for wastewater contamination, and the standards we are appealing to are recreational standards, and especially in this time of COVID, as we encourage people to engage with the river and use the river as a public space on which they can recreate. The importance of public health has never been more visible to us, and so the grades we're about to show reflect that. So without further ado, I will pass on to Administrator Deziel, and if we can show the next slide. These are the report. This is a map made by EPA and reflecting the report card grades for this year. And I will now introduce Dennis Deziel.
Thanks, Andy. I hope you can hear and see me. I seem to be having some technical difficulties as well, which is after 5 months of Zooming and Microsoft Teams, sort of learned how to figure out a lot of different angles to this, but I hope you can hear me. Thank you to Patricia Jehlen and the Mystic River Watershed Association for hosting this event to announce the Mystic's 2019 Water Quality Report Card. Of course, I'd like to thank you, Andy, for organizing the event, as well as doing the important work behind the scenes to calculate the grade. And certainly not least, I would like to thank all the Mystic River Watershed volunteers that collect the samples that are used to calculate the grade. Without them, this effort would never have been launched, let alone grow into the program it is today. Pleasure to be here today. I know that we've got a couple folks on the phone, including Ken Maraff, our Water Division Director for EPA New England. In what may be the understatement of the 21st century, it has not been a normal year. I hope all of you and your families are staying safe, distancing, and wearing your masks where appropriate, and staying cool as well. We shut down earlier this year and distanced ourselves from our family, friends, and coworkers. We started to look for those activities that we could do safely. Visiting parks, conservation land, and other outdoor activities became one of the few safe activities for us. I hope that one thing that comes out of these troubling times is a greater appreciation for our environment, a greater appreciation of its value to not only our economic vitality, but also our mental health. Over the past week, we've issued this report card earlier in the year, as you know, usually along the waterfront, somewhere with great views of the beautiful Mystic River. I actually had a photo of the river that I was going to use for my Zoom background, but I can't load that. So you get to see the background of my house. Obviously, COVID has caused some delays this year, but in typical fashion, we adapt, and we're happy to be here virtually. For a lucky 13th year, the Mystic River Watershed Association, in collaboration with EPA, are issuing a report card on bacterial contamination levels in the Mystic River watershed. By issuing the report card, we hope to both celebrate the successes and spotlight the areas in need of continued attention. Since we began issuing this report card, we have seen slow but steady improvement in most river sub-watersheds. For example, 3 years ago at this report card event, we were celebrating progress made in the Belle Isle Inlet after a mix of new local investments, federal enforcement actions, public attention. The grade for that inlet had improved from a D+ in 2013 to a B in 2016. Because of continued local leadership, improvements continued. Belle Isle Inlet has improved further and has remained in the A- to B+ range for the past 3 years, which is something. I'm pleased to announce today that another Mystic waterway, the Island End River, has also hit a remarkable milestone, carrying stormwater flow from industrial and densely populated sections of Everett and Chelsea. Island End River once appeared stuck, receiving an F for several years in a row. But thanks to the work being conducted by both the cities of Everett and Chelsea, the Island End River has, for the first time, received a B, which is great. This is an exciting piece to this work, that it's not stopping. Both Everett and Chelsea have big plans and projects on tap for this area that should continue to drive water quality improvements. So I want to say thank you to everyone involved in these efforts, from the Watershed Association to the residents of the watershed to the community leaders. Your work has value. Your work has made a marked improvement in the environment. And I know normal will be in the future. Your work will be appreciated by all of those that work, live, and recreate in the Mystic River watershed. So thanks again for inviting me today. We'll keep working together to restore and protect the Mystic River watershed. And with that, I will turn it back over.
Thank you so much, Administrator Deziel. one fact about the collaboration that we do is that it costs money. And one in the past couple of years, our baseline program, which is now 20 years old, by the way, we have 20 years of data, has been funded by a water quality group, in part by a water quality monitoring grant from the Department of Environmental Protection. And with that, first I want to thank the Department of Environmental Protection for that support. It's a great endorsement of our work. But I also would love to pass the mic to Commissioner Suuberg and give him a chance to talk about that and anything else he would like to mention.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Like some of our other speakers, I'm a little bit nostalgic for the events down by the water's edge. Today's a beautiful day, and how I think we'd all love to be there. And hopefully next time, where we're celebrating future progress, we'll be able to be there on the banks of the Mystic and taking in this remarkable resource. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Patrick, the Mystic River Watershed Association, for not only having this event, but for the work you do. I'm a big fan of these types of efforts. A report card. I learned an awful lot about it from my former colleague, Warren Kimball and Mass DEP, and I continue to learn about these efforts from my current colleague, Barbara Kickham, Laura Blake, others that are partners with the association as we look at water quality issues. An effort like this, you measure what you value and you value what you measure. And so it's important, and it's important not only to measure the progress we make, but to look ahead. And embedded in this effort is also another important word that Andrew and Dennis have both used, which is collaboration and partnership. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but I'm delighted to be here with Administrator Deziel, Senator Jehlen, Representative Gabali, Mayor DeMaria, Town Administrator Ambrosino, and our other colleagues from EPA, DEP, and the many people and citizens, as you underscored, Andrew, who work on this river because they know how important it is and they know how much it means to the community and to the health of the community. We were delighted. Since I've been commissioner, I've tried to make it a priority to make sure that we're investing in science. And I've tried to make sure that we are also finding new opportunities to partner with organizations that care about the things we care about. It makes all the sense in the world that we should try to leverage our resources and make sure that the data that your association is collecting is data that we can use and vice versa, and that we're thinking about this in a holistic approach. And our water quality grants are one of those tools that we try to use to make sure that we are able to work together and that we're maximizing your capabilities. We're glad for the $9,200 you received last year. We're looking forward to continued collaboration, but partnership is such an important word. And the Watershed Association is not only great on the science of water, but you're great at bringing parties together. I also want to thank the important work that the municipalities and the legislators have done on this. Some of my most inspiring meetings at DEP have been when I've been able to sit with either Mayor DeMaria or Tom Philbin or Patrick, when we're either looking at plans for development of recreational resources that might involve wetlands, Chapter 91, our cleanup programs, our solid waste programs, any number of things. It helps us understand the context, and it helps us work with you. So I'll be brief, but I will encourage and continue to value the work we do together, talking both on specific projects, whether it's water quality, but also the ability to talk together with our partners and to think ahead about things that are important for the association, for the communities, for the legislature, for the quality of this river. So I commit to that, and I thank you very much for the time.
Thank you again, Commissioner. So returning back to Island and River, the success story you can see in this slide is that rising of the grade in the past 3 years from a failing grade to a B-level grade. Another view of that is here, and you can see that in 2018 something happened here, and these are you're looking at sort of raw bacteria data in Island and River sampled by MWRA, and this is a log scale, so higher values are much higher. This is a little distorted. So the values started going down suddenly in 2018, and we think we know why. And I would love to introduce now Tom Ambrosino, the city manager of Chelsea, to talk a little bit about that success story.
So thank you, Andy. I appreciate the introduction. I want to thank Mystic River Watershed Association for inviting me. So the Chelsea was really excited to see these numbers and to see this grade for Island and River improve so dramatically. We've put in the last few years a lot of time and effort in focusing on our infrastructure, our water, sewer, drainage infrastructure. In fact, for 20 plus years, the city outsourced all of this work to a third-party operator. We brought it in-house now. That was a process for the last 2 years we were contemplating and working on, and effective in July, the city of Chelsea now is fully operating and managing its own water, sewer, and drainage system, which we hadn't done in a generation. And we've put a lot of specific effort in trying to ensure stormwater system is improved. And I think part of this story, especially this dramatic increase, is our attention to illicit discharges. And in this particular area, within the last 2 years, we were able to identify 2 fairly significant illicit connections that were driving, we thought, a lot of sewer discharge into this Island and River. One was a large-scale apartment complex where we identified an illicit connection from the sewer to the drainage system. We did the required infrastructure work to remove that, and that was from what my Public Works folks tell me, and they're both on the line, Public Works Commissioner Fidel Maltez and Deputy Public Works Commissioner Lou Mamelette, who are doing a great job taking over the system now. They've told me that that was the equivalent of taking 30 single-family homes with direct connections out of that sewer, out of that Island and River. The second was similarly significant. It was a large illicit connection coming from one of the food processors down in the New England Produce Center area. So I think both of those specific fixes really made a difference here, and I think it's reflected in this graph. The other thing I would just say is that we've worked very cooperatively with the city of Everett and my friend Mayor DeMaria on not just improvements to stormwater, but looking at this Island and River in terms of climate resiliency. And we have a lot more work to do collaboratively with Everett, but this is a very important place for climate resiliency, particularly with the major food processing, the New England Produce Center, the second largest produce center in the country, being right there adjacent to the river. We both pay a lot of attention to that area, and we expect to be working in partnership to do some major climate resiliency work at this Island and River location in the ensuing 5 to 10 years. So I'm looking forward to that work and looking forward to continuing the investment we're making so that hopefully we can continue to have these good grades here, and our next target is Mill Creek. So again, thanks for inviting me, and very pleased to see this improvement and to feel like the city played a good part in it. So thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambrosino. You provide me with a great transition to Mayor DeMaria from Everett. We often say that water connects people, connects municipalities, and all these water bodies are shared resources. And it's certainly true that Everett has also been investing in infrastructure changes that have improved conditions. So I'd love to give the floor to Mayor Carlo DeMaria from Everett.
Thank you, Andy. Tom stole my script, so he said everything I wanted to say. But it's great working with the city of Chelsea and all in our endeavors to really clean up the island end area. Just to know, from going from from 2 years ago being an F to a B, that's just getting that rating is just remarkable. And I want to thank so many people that are involved in helping us, the city of Everett, from Senator Jehlen, who's on this call, to Fred Laskey, the MWRA, and my senator, my rep, in the Baker administration, helping us with the MassWorks money, and helping us finance and doing that daylighting work. Tom talked a little bit about the island end area and the Boston Market Terminal. As all of you know, we have the Davis Company just coming in now. Soon we'll be constructing a 12 by 16 box culvert to improve the stream flow under this property. In the city of Everett, we'll be doing some daylighting, approximately about 500 feet of the Island End River that is now on the ground. From illicit connections to combined sewer overflows, to repairing pipes, reducing stormwater runoff. We're all over it. My goal is to really be able to active recreation all along the, as you see now, on the Malden and Mystic River, but even down here at the Island End area. So I'm just happy to be part of the solution, working with all of you, and continue to work with you. This is definitely something, for years, the city of Everett was unable to get access to the waterfront. With the Encore Boston Harbor now having a viable waterfront property, working with our partners at Mystic River Watershed Association and Bike to the Sea folks, and just all the great improvements along the Malden and Mystic River. I'm excited. I really am. This really, most people would think that this stuff really doesn't excite me, but I do love this active recreation. As you know, we just put a canoe and bike canoe launch over at the Malden River area, working with again MWRA. So we're committed. I know I have Greg St. Louis, my city engineer, on here, and I hope Tom Philbin's on here, working with Commissioner Suuberg on getting some of our more industrial users to really get more involved and getting access to the waterfront. I know this is more about Island End today and the great news, but it's all kind of, it all works together. And I'm, again, just happy to be a partner with all of you. And I want to thank all of you, because a lot of you have been committed to this for a lot longer than I have. But the city of Everett is going to continue on working on improving everything we have to and everything we should be doing to make sure that our rivers and our waters are clean and so forth. So again, just thank you. And I don't want to take too much time. I want to thank everybody for everything you all do. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I want to move on to the final portion of this presentation, which will be a panel. I just want to make one point about this ability to zoom into this very local context, to pick out one stream and say, has that stream improved? And that it's partly the result of another collaboration of being able to access and integrate data from the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority. So they are the folks who sample at this site and whose data set goes back many years. And it's against that background that we're able to see this success story. So both the local aspect and the fact that it's changed over time is the result of many people out there working to collect samples. So thank you to MWRA for that. The next portion will be a panel consisting of Patrick Herron, the Executive Director of the Mystic River Watershed Association, my boss, Senator Patricia Jehlen from the State Senate, Administrator Deziel, if he's still there, yes he is, and Fred Laskey, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, MWRA. So welcome everyone. You know, I wanted to start, Patrick, and I'll pose 3 questions to folks. Feel free to comment on any topic, however. I'll start with a question to Patrick, and I wanted, you and I were talking yesterday about trends over time, and in particular, you know, what kinds of improvements do we see over a 20-year or 10-year horizon, and what does that mean? So we were looking at this particular graph, and I wanted to ask you what your reaction to this graph is. Oh, Patrick, you're on mute as well.
Well, thanks everybody. And thank you, Andy, and thank you everybody for joining us today to learn about this. And I'm so glad that we can shine a light on this partnership among volunteers and agencies and municipalities doing this important work, but also shine a light on this resource that is so much being used right now during COVID, where people really need these open space like parks and open water to recreate safely right now. So I'm glad we're able to do this together with all of you. The context for this, you know, this grade that the Mystic River Watershed Association creates in collaboration with the US EPA in particular, is a grade that's built on 3 years of data each year. It's a rolling window of data, and it's one that incorporates nearly 1,200 data points of bacteria. And there's a lot of stability in the grade that we present each year. This right here that Andy shows is the grade just for the Mystic River freshwater section. And you'll notice that the blue and the green bars are adding up to provide this grade that you see at the top. And in 2019, it's A-. And in fact, that shouldn't be too much of a surprise because it's been an A- for the past 4 years previously. And that's buffered, having a window of 3 years buffers the impact of weather and a construction event. But the context here, just to keep in mind here, is that when we are creating a grade for the Mystic River, we're incorporating all of that data, but we're also measuring something that's really quite large. We're measuring nearly 50 square miles of upstream infrastructure and more than a dozen communities of infrastructure. And that means hundreds of miles of sanitary sewer, hundreds of miles of stormwater pipes, and the major infrastructure of the Massachusetts Water Resources Authority, among others. So when we see a gradual improvement, as we saw between 2011 and 2015, that really signals a real work that's being done at a major scale. And in some of our areas that need much more improvement, we're hopeful to see a similar type of gradual improvement like this one, and some hope that the new MS4 permit from 2016 that the US EPA and DEP put out accelerates these improvements. I'd love to ask Fred and Senator Jehlen 2 questions, and I'll preview them so they have a moment here. But the first will be for Fred around the ongoing work that they're doing around reducing CSO discharges in the Mystic, which is one contributor of pollution, and their new efforts to provide really good CSO reporting to the community and notification. And then we'd love to hear from Senator Jehlen a little bit about her bill to improve CSO reporting and why that's so important. So with that, I'd love, Fred, for you to talk a little bit about that ongoing work that MWRA has ongoing.
Okay, can you hear me? I just want to make sure I'm unmuted. Oh, you're good, okay. Well,
Yes.
I appreciate it, Patrick and Andrew and all you folks, Senator Jehlen and Mayor DeMaria and Tom Ambrosino. I appreciate the opportunity to speak here today. And there's a lot going on and a lot of activity, and obviously the enthusiasm from Mayor DeMaria and from Tom Ambrosino was clear that this is an ongoing effort. And as you know, we at Everett continue to invest in the Mystic River, in the infrastructure that serves our communities there. And some of it, frankly, goes unnoticed. But just to keep in mind, a major facility that takes most of our flow north of the city is called the Chelsea Headworks. We're in the middle of an $80 million upgrade to that facility to make sure that it functions appropriately and can take the flows that come at us during storms and in dry weather, and not back up and have unnecessary overflows. So that project's underway. We just spent $13 million upgrading the Elway pump station along the Mystic Elway up off of Route 16. Again, a major investment. We continue to be a major source of affordable funding for our member communities through our II program, Inflow and Infiltration program. We have provided over 21 different projects from our member communities to upgrade their systems and to eliminate some of the issues that are causing problems. It's an ongoing effort, frankly, and it's never going to, in my opinion, it's never going to end, because we're always going to try to strive to be better at what we do and have a higher quality of water quality in the river. And that's a partnership. And we have a great working relationship with Everett and Chelsea. Lou Marmoletto over there is on the advisory board, our advisory board, and we're working closely with him on some areas where we need to improve the results in Chelsea, and we're working closely with the city of Boston through Boston Water and Sewer on their projects. So I guess I want to reassure folks that the job is still underway, and we are continuing to assess the situation to find Somerville. We're working closely with Somerville. They've got the Green Line extension and some changing in the piping there. Obviously, Cambridge on the other side. We're working with them up in the Elway. And again, we continue to work and move forward. And interestingly, I'll wrap up this part of my presentation with a Judge Stearns, federal judge. We still remain under his watchful eye. He was handed this off by Judge Mazzoni, and we report to him regularly. And in his latest report, he raised an interesting question that I think we all need to talk a little bit about. And I'm gonna quote him. Ultimately, as framed by the MWA's compliance report in meeting the desired water quality standards, a choice may have to be made between further investment in CSO mitigation or placing greater emphasis on controlling non-CSO pollution contributions. Now, obviously, that's a challenge for all of us to figure out where we're going to spend the money and how we're going to move forward. And I think we are in the middle of a major study at the urging of EPA and DEP and Watershed Association to trace back where are the sources of pollution that are coming in the rivers, the Charles and the Mystic, going forward. So we better understand who the enemy is and how we're going to attack it. And I don't mean, I'm talking about the pollution being the enemy as we go forward. So we want to make sure that whatever we do going forward is based on science. And I think this major report, which is due later this calendar year, will provide us some real insight into where we as a group collectively need to be looking at putting our resources. But in the meantime, day in and day out, we're out there with the cities and towns. And the other piece to this that we're finding, frankly, is that some of the stuff is maintenance. Where grid is filled up, and we need a higher level of maintenance on some of the infrastructure. I don't know if I answered you with that, Patrick. Is that satisfactory? Okay. And then I see the senator. The senator has been the champion of the notification, the CSO notification program. And would you like me to switch over to that, Patrick? No, I guess. Can you still hear me?
That'd be great.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we have recently come online with an instant notification program for our CSO outfalls in the Mystic and in the Charles, but in the Mystic for this discussion. And it's worked well. We had some glitches and trying to make sure people get logged on and this and that. But right now we have 40 people who watch, are signed up to get the notice and can come up and get the notice that we have an overflow underway, where it is. Part of the imperfect science of this whole thing is trying to to measure the amount of flow. That's an imperfect science to try to calculate, exactly when it started, at what rate, at what height, and whatever. But I think the intent is good, and I think it's a good step forward. And I know this has been something that's been very, very important, not only to the senator, to Rep. Gobley, and to the others, but it's also kind of it's obviously the right thing to do, so that people know what's going on in the river and when it's going on. And I would too. I'd just like to thank Andrew and the others. The MWA staff work real hard, and in a storm they work very, very hard, and including the water quality testing people. And when you're looking out the window at a driving rain on a dark night, dark cold night, you can be assured that MWA employees are out there riding around from outfall to outfall, getting the testing results, and they deserve a lot of credit. Kind of unsung heroes in this whole thing. So I'll finish up there.
Thank you so much, Senator.
Oh.
Would you like to comment?
Oh, yes, I had.
Yes.
So there's so many people to thank. I'm just very excited to hear about the work in Everett and Chelsea, and to see that another confirmation that government really can make people's lives better. And thanks so much to DeMaria and all the monitors. And right now, I particularly want to thank Fred Laskey and MWRA for the new notification system. And that is what our bill is about. Denise Provo and Linda Dean Campbell in the House, the day before the end of session, passed a unanimous bill in the House, which we've been working on for several years, which would require anybody that operates a combined sewer overflow, when there is such an overflow, that they would notify the boards of health in each community that would be affected, each municipality, and they would also have an email list that they would notify. And so last week, MWRA put that into action on 9 CSOs in the Charles and Mystic. And it's so wonderful. It's not only that they will send you a notice, but you can look on their website and you can find out what's happening. And so we did that on Sunday, and we felt confident, and we were able to canoe on the Mystic. And one thing we learned was what I think Mr. Deziel was pointing out, was that there's a lot more people out. Several people have pointed out, there's so many people out that at the Condon show, they ran out of canoes and kayaks. So really people want to be on the river. And it's important that they know if there has been a discharge, because I don't think people realize how important it is in the time of COVID that the state is measuring, is doing surveillance by looking at sewage. And so sewage carries COVID, because even before you're symptomatic, you are releasing the virus into your sewage. So when the CSO releases raw sewage into the Mystic or whatever river, it's releasing COVID if there are around. So particularly at this point, it's important to make that happen. And that's 15 senators wrote to the Senate President this week and asked her to take up this bill soon, so that people in other rivers who, particularly the Merrimack, where the Merrimack feeds water supply, that people need to know what is happening. So thank you all very much. Everybody on this call has contributed to making the rivers safer, and I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you so much, Senator Jehlen. I had one more question, which I will pose quickly. If I realize we've gone beyond our time and I don't want to keep people, I'll just note that solving these problems, whether it's sewer separation that leads to the closing of CSOs or finding illicit discharges and remediating them, costs money. And to create landscape scale changes across a watershed is a significant financial investment. And I know there are innovative financing opportunities for municipalities in stormwater. And I wondered whether anyone, including Administrator Deziel, would like to comment on that, on the cost looking forward, and what are some of the steps that might be taken, and what residents might urge their municipalities to do. Patrick, you may also have something, an opinion on that question.
Well, I can start and give them time to think, but these challenges of correcting infrastructure cost a lot of money, and but all of the services that we take for granted in the city, whether it's the schools or the upkeep of City Hall, also cost money. And it's important that an appropriate amount of money is delegated toward making sure that what comes out of the city doesn't impact these waterways negatively. So some examples of approaches to reduce, to find those funds. In many communities, they're starting what's called a stormwater utility fee, which is a fair way to distribute the costs among all of the landowners to help offset those costs of practices like green infrastructure, or even just finding these sources of contamination. But there are, of course, also state and federal grant sources that are available to pursue.
Thank you. Anyone else have a comment on the funding question?
No.
This is Dennis. I would just add that, we've got WIFIA grants, Water Infrastructure Finance and Innovation Act grants that can be used to help with infrastructure around the waters. We've also got SRF. We're rolling out a new grant program with CSU and Stormwater. I think Ken Marath is on the line. He can maybe get into more detail, but we think there are a lot of opportunities that that make funding possible, enable some innovation in terms of improving your waters, addressing CSO. So it's small but grows. So it's something that number of programs like that we emphasize.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm going to wrap up here. I see a lot of great questions in the question and answer. Many of them are being answered by my colleagues. We will get to all of those and attempt to identify answers or point you to the right information. One of them, I'll just close with this by sharing my screen again. It was asking about how do you know, so this is all the data we've looked at is backward looking. It's what happened last year or what happened 3 years ago. What if you want an estimate of what conditions are today? That's a kind of different analytical question, but we've tackled that one as well. And so we have a site called the Mystic Daily Boating Advisory, and it uses recent precipitation data and flow data and other data to estimate the water conditions today and whether they meet boating recreation standards. So go to this website. I won't get into all the details here, but the short answer is if it's rained recently, there's some chance that the water quality is lower. If it hasn't rained recently, there's likely that the Mystic River especially and Upper Mystic Lake especially have excellent water quality conditions. So with that, and with thank you to everyone who's participated, everyone on the panel, all the municipal and agency folks who've been in the audience. Thank you, all the constituents who've been in the audience, thank you. And look forward to our questions and our answers to your questions. And thanks again.